yeah, so they have another PTR update for the vendor, in order to be more specific to what people are gonna get. I think they made it more specific. In the past, it was there were just some missing stuff, and they also add more stuff to it so that people can try the LOD faster, because it looks like there's a list here that's more catered to like LOD, and then also some more specific uh, crowd control or like radius testing. So like if you use the Rondo's Locket for certain radius testing of certain builds, you might be able to test that better. So that's good. And then there's a whole bunch of bags for followers too, which is really handy so that people don't have to grind out for their follower, because the new follow system, like if people want to test, like make a true test outside of not trying the follower and just see what they can how they can perform without the follower stuff initially, then uh it sets a bar before a follower and then an after follower. But this new bag would help with straight up, like, go right into testing basically. Okay, item changes. Now I'm not a big barbarian player, but my one of my friends is, so he will be able to like say a lot more about this, because he has played a lot more than I have for barbarian, like a lot more, like miles, like beyond. So barbarian is like beyond my scope and of expertise, but it will be interesting to see how this ancient spear thing is going to play out. To me, in summary, it feels like a different version of Spirit Barrage on the Witch Doctor, kind of. I could be totally like misinterpreting it, but I feel like it's like a Spirit Barrage, but like a on a barbarian kind of style. And then I don't know about this Furious Charge. Like, are we talking about like I want to take you to like movies or like the history, right? Where you have people who before like weapons, like you know or like for survival, you make a um you make a spear out of wood and all that, and then you hunt, like the the evolution of like weapons, you know and like think about this when you do like or even Olympics, you have the javelin and stuff like that. So it makes me think of like how you charge up or you charge away. So like the bone spear necro, how you like prepare yourself by stacking the Dragul stacks, and then you go out like far away and shoot your bone spears in the max range that you can. And if you line them up correctly, you take them down uh relatively more quickly. And so my question would be whether we're charging outward and then doing this ancient spear. So it's gonna play like the bone spear necro, but it's gonna be like a spirit barrage witch doctor kind of mindset. But the same time, we might consider it to be area effect as well. So while Spirit Barrage doesn't play into the area, this is going to play into the area if we think about how barbarians have pixel pull, you know? So it'll be interesting, right? You pixel pull, you charge out, and then you throw the spear. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But this is what I initially thought when I was skimming through the PTR notes yesterday. So I mean, again, I barbarian is out of my expertise, so I'm not totally certain. But this is what I feel like this is what I'm gonna say for that. That is how I'm reading into the item changes for the barbarian. And I'm not gonna go too deep into this because it's not my expertise. Crusader is another one that I only played at the start when Crusader launched. I was a Hammer, Blessed Hammer player because I come from Diablo 2 and I would love to see if they can match Diablo 2 in some way with the Blessed Hammer Crusaders. And I didn't do the Force Move Blessed Hammer build at all either because I didn't enjoy um, that that style. So there's that. But it's actually interesting about Thorns though because I'm a gear checker and I help people build foundations and talk about primary stats and secondary stats. Now, Thorns is a really dangerous um, thing for a little bit for the newer players and newcomers because when you touch a secondary stat where Thorns stat is on, you can't go back to the primary stats. So in a way, this is I guess is another hidden teaching to where a lot of players just look into primary stats in gear for like almost all the other classes. But for the Crusader, especially the Thorns build, that you know you have to look to both the primaries and the secondaries. So it's kind of like a hidden teaching, I believe, as to what they want people to learn down the road, and it's also about class diversity. I think they want to open up for people to play more Crusaders. Whether they like the Thorns is another story, but I think that this is opening up to people to understand, to further understand about their gear a bit more than just secondary stats being physical resistance or secondary stats being health globe bonus and pickup radius for the support builds, right? I think that having Thorns as an additional difficulty um, will engage both newcomers and experienced players to better understand their gear. And I think that this is like a step towards that direction. But that's just my take. That's just my take upon why suddenly the Thorns Crusader got a little increase. Again, I don't play much of the Crusader. I've only played it a couple of times. So I'm not going to go into detail as to what the comparisons are, and a lot of other streamers are going to cover that, and a lot of other Crusader mains are going to cover that. People who have expertise in Crusader, who have played over like multitude of seasons, that they have their experience and they have their selection as to why they play Bombardment, Condemn, Thorns, etc. That they know what they're doing, they know what they're talking about. But for me as a gear checker, I know what I'm talking about in terms of primary and secondary stats, so I'm going with that. That this is a little hidden teaching for both new and experienced players to further and better understand their gear and how their gear is actually working for them because some people just don't look at the secondary stats as much as they could have. So this is like a hidden teaching towards gear in my eyes. And then we have the monk. So the monk, for this short, rather short change so far, before we even start this PTR 2.7.3, it's short, but it's also cutting into what people have been playing for season 25. Now, Innas, however, has been going on for quite some time, and over time, in terms of what I've played Monk since the beginning. Now, I did not play Monk after POJ came about, but I would say that the Innas from since the beginning it changed and it turned from support side through towards the offensive side, and then people who want to play like the middle ground, although it's not the middle ground, it's actually stronger versions, and the Innas took hold of a lot of different builds. uh Innas managed to intercept, or what's the other word, or the better word for it, it actually found its way into almost all the builds to turn it into both defensive and offensive for almost every build there is. So, like Wave of Light, you know, it it should be Sun Wukong, but the Innas took over, and then the Rabbit Strike with the uh extra casting and whatnot. So, like, it took hold of a build that was, you know, originally from a different set, and then the Innes took its place to make it more defensive as well as more offensive. Because now, your toughness has gone up, that you're able to do more damage. And as well as if the set changed a little bit over time, then you also deal more damage that way, eh, as well as other items that have gained a percent damage buff, uh, you know, to creep up the damage, and also to enable people to do higher GRs over time and achieve their own goals and objectives, because some people may not have had the chance or the time to invest so much to the point where they can actually succeed in, achieving GR 150, and over time percent damage increase has enabled them to do so, especially this season, if not also last season, when ethereals popped up and certain weapons were really really strong, that it took them up there. So with this monk, I believe that the fire has been taken off from the bracer, just very vaguely. Um, this will, I mean, it's still gonna be really strong. I think it's still gonna be really strong. It's just gonna be taken down a few notches, most likely. Yeah, I think it's still gonna stay S tier, I think. But I mean, I'm not very well versed in S tier and A tier in terms of like the internal rankings, and like what drops. Like, I don't know the exact number, but I don't think it's gonna drop them to A tier, right? It's not very likely. It's gonna be like on the. It's gonna be like, if anything, it's gonna be like right on the, like, the center between, like, at the bare minimum, it's gonna be in between. If it really fell that much, right? So this change on the bracer will only affect that much of the deal, but that's what they're trying to control, which is very interesting, because that would also mean that they are trying to control what's going to happen in the Echoing Nightmare. Because I feel like if we if we think about what's going to happen in the Echoing Nightmare and they're touching this bracer in some way, what I could think of is, for Elite Hunter builds like Impale, um, and this monk that we've been seeing for season 25, as well as Firebirds that they also touched the the Mystic Ally version and stuff like that. So what we can see from the trend of these changes leading up to the Echoing Nightmare, I think that the Echoing Nightmare sounds like it's gonna be like either waves or floors of like different combinations of monsters, so that one floor could be all trash mobs and maybe one elite or one Rift Guardian, and then another floor could be all elites and then the Rift Guardian. Maybe. I mean, this is all just me assuming what I understand, but it sounds to me like over time, between season 23 through 25, the changes to elite hunting builds um, is leading up to what's happening or possibly happening in the Echoing Nightmare that we are seeing in this PTR 2.7.3 patch notes. And anything else? No. Okay, so I think I've gone exactly pretty much 2 hours through this patch notes, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's really exhaustive. I definitely sped through the item changes a lot more because I believe that um, it is a little bit beyond my expertise because I haven't been playing those classes myself. So it is definitely something different, but I think that I covered the gist of it, the gist of it, because I have friends that play certain ones outside of, this season. I may not have watched too much Barbarian gameplay in terms of the DPS side, and normally you wouldn't anyway from the Barbarian. But I have a friend that plays Barbarian, and uh, he can say a lot more about this. But I just skimmed it over and thought that it was kind of like, between the Witch Doctor Spirit Barrage adding area into it, as well as the Bone Spear Necro having to Blood Rush outward and then deal damage. So it's kind of like a combination of those two into the Barbarian to kind of hype up the Barbarian uh, in both the Diablo games, right? I believe that. Um, I mean, I didn't really go through the PTR of uh, D2R or the recent changes. I haven't actually played it myself, but I heard about the throw barb, and I think that they are also trying to um, tie these two games together as a way to give people who like one or the other to be able to enjoy both if they choose to play both.